If you feel responsible for everyone, it's not a burden, it's a huge gift. There's something deep inside you that you've probably never said out loud. It's the way you carry the weight of the world in silence. It's the way you sense people's emotions before they speak. It's the way you feel an invisible pull to fix things, to help, to hold space, even when no one asks. And maybe, somewhere along the way, you started to believe that this sensitivity, this sense of responsibility, was a curse. Maybe people told you, stop caring so much, or you're too intense, or that's not your problem. But what if I told you they were wrong? What if I told you that the very thing you've been trying to suppress is actually your greatest gift? That your responsibility is not a burden, but a divine assignment. We live in a world that glorifies detachment, a world that rewards individualism, where people say things like, stay in your lane, or protect your energy, with walls so high they can't feel anything real anymore. But what if you were wired differently for a reason? What if your capacity to feel, the overwhelm, the empathy, the pressure to hold it all together, wasn't dysfunction but destiny? You're not weak, you're not broken. You're a bridge, a soul architect, a vessel for something ancient and sacred. You're here to hold light in a world that's drowning in shadows. And yes, that responsibility is heavy, but it's also holy.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
When I say responsibility, I'm not talking about codependency or martyrdom. I'm not talking about sacrificing yourself endlessly for others. I'm talking about the spiritual weight of being awake in a world that's still asleep. I'm talking about the invisible contract your soul signed before you were born. The agreement to be an anchor, a healer, a mirror, a guide. That's why you feel what others don't. That's why you see what others miss. That's why you walk into a room and instantly know who's hurting, who's lying, who's lost. You weren't meant to ignore that. You were meant to use it. But here's the turning point. Your responsibility is not to fix everyone. It's to see everyone. To be a presence so grounded, so clear, so loving that others remember who they are just by being near you. You don't have to carry people, you only have to carry your truth. And when you do that fully, without apology, you become a living transmission. Your energy teaches louder than your words ever could. Let me ask you something, and I want you to answer with your soul, not your mind. What if the pain you've been carrying isn't yours? What if the anxiety, the overwhelm, the sadness you feel at random moments is actually you tuning into the collective field? You're not crazy, you're connected. And the world needs more people like you, people who feel deeply, who care without reason, who love without limits. But first, you have to stop seeing it as a flaw. I need you to understand something powerful. Feeling responsible for others doesn't mean you're supposed to save them. It means your soul is attuned to service, that you're here to awaken humanity, not by force, but by frequency. And that starts with how you treat yourself. You can't pour from an empty cup, but more importantly, you can't activate others if you're still hiding your own light. So the real work isn't to take on everyone's pain, it's to transmute it through your presence. It's to stand so fully in your authenticity that others feel safe to do the same. And yes, it gets lonely sometimes. being the one who holds space, being the one who's always strong, being the emotional backbone for your family, your partner, your team. But here's the truth, you're not alone. There are millions of us waking up to this same realization, that our sensitivity is our superpower, that our ability to feel responsible is not weakness but wisdom, that we're not here to escape the world but to elevate it. You see, society teaches us that success is about control, domination, and independence, but spiritual success, real success, is about interconnection. It's about how deeply you can feel, how powerfully you can love, how courageously you can show up. And the people who change the world are never the ones who play it safe. They're the ones who feel everything and still choose to stay open. So if you've been feeling heavy, if you've been carrying the weight of others and wondering why you can't seem to let it go, I want you to reframe it. You're not carrying it because you're weak. You're carrying it because you were designed to feel deeply, to hold sacred space, to be a lighthouse in the storm. The key is to stop drowning in other people's waters and start anchoring in your own. This is the start of your real power, not when you stop feeling responsible, but when you start understanding what that responsibility really means. It means you're a conscious participant in the evolution of humanity. It means your energy matters, your words matter, your presence matters. And above all, it means you're here for a reason much bigger than you've allowed yourself to believe. You are not here to shrink for the comfort of others. You are not here to numb yourself to fit in. You are here to feel it all and to turn that feeling into fuel, into fire, into truth, into impact. So the next time you feel like you're holding too much, I want you to pause and ask yourself, what if this isn't a weight? What if it's a calling? What if I was never meant to carry it alone, but to alchemize it into something greater? Because once you see your responsibility not as a burden, but as a sacred gift, everything changes. You stop resisting and start rising. You stop hiding and start healing, and the world begins to shift. Not because you forced it, but because you became the embodiment of what it's been waiting for. The sacred role of the emotional backbone, why you always feel what others can't say. There's a reason you walk into a room and immediately sense the energy before a single word is spoken. A reason you feel drained after being with certain people, not because they're bad, but because you absorb the unsaid. You've become the emotional backbone, the one who picks up what others drop, who understands without explanation, who feels the weight of silence louder than words. And it's not random, it's sacred. Most people don't realize this. The world is built on spoken emotions. Families are held together by the one who notices the tension that nobody addresses. Relationships survive because one person is strong enough to hold the emotional chaos the other refuses to face. Teams function because someone silently carries the stress that would otherwise tear the group apart. That someone is often you. And while the world may never fully acknowledge what you do, the universe does, because what you're doing isn't just emotional labor, it's energetic architecture. You see, emotions are not just feelings, they are frequencies. Every unresolved wound, every suppressed truth, every denied need creates an energetic residue that floats in the air like static. Most people are numb to that, but not you. You feel the static, the distortion, the dissonance, and without even trying, your system starts to harmonize it, to balance it, to regulate the field. That's why people feel better around you, because your presence is medicine. Not your advice, not your solutions, your presence. But here's the paradox. While you're busy holding space for others, who's holding space for you? Who's reading your unspoken emotions? Who's scanning your energy and saying, "You don't have to carry this alone"? It's a lonely path to be the one who always knows, to be the intuitive, the empath, the stabilizer. But you didn't choose this path because it's easy. You chose it because your soul is ancient, because you've done this work across lifetimes, because you're not here to live a surface life, you're here to be a portal between the seen and the unseen, between chaos and clarity. Let me ask you something that pierces through the noise. How much of what you're feeling right now is actually yours? How much of the sadness, the anxiety, the exhaustion you carry is a reflection of the people around you who can't face their own pain? You've been conditioned to think your sensitivity is too much, but what if it's actually your compass? What if it's the very thing that lets you walk into a room and read the soul of it? This is your sacred role, not to fix, not to absorb, but to witness, to feel what others can't say and to hold it without judgment, to be the stillness in their storm, to reflect back to them what they've forgotten, that their emotions are valid, that their pain is not shameful, that their truth is safe in your presence. That's why people open up to you. That's why strangers tell you their life story. That's why your silence is comforting. You carry the medicine of permission, and in a world full of masks, you make people feel seen without having to perform. But here's the shift. You must learn to hold space without losing yourself in it. Your gift is not to merge with everyone's pain, it's to hold your own vibration so powerfully that others rise to meet it. That means boundaries. That means rituals. That means anchoring into your own energy every single day so you don't drown in the emotional ocean you're here to navigate. Because your sensitivity is not a reason to suffer, it's a reason to become masterful. Being the emotional backbone doesn't mean you're invincible. It means you're deeply human, deeply attuned, and deeply responsible for your own alignment. And when you do that, when you take care of your frequency like it's the most sacred thing you own, everything changes. You stop attracting chaos. You stop overfunctioning. You stop feeling like love has to be earned through self-sacrifice. You start radiating a calm so strong it becomes contagious. So the next time you feel overwhelmed by everyone's energy, pause. Ask yourself, is this mine? And even more than that, what is this moment asking me to remember about myself? Because every emotion you feel, every unspoken truth you absorb, is an invitation, not to fix others, but to return to your own center. This is the sacred role of the emotional backbone, not to carry everything, but to transmute it, to feel deeply, yes, but to remain rooted, to be a tuning fork for truth in a world that's forgotten how to feel. You are not broken for caring too much. You are not weak for noticing what others ignore. You are the bridge, the mirror, the reminder. And when you fully embrace that, you stop feeling like a burden and start living like a blessing. You are the lighthouse, not the lifeboat. How to help without losing yourself. There comes a moment on this path, this sacred, often invisible path of holding space, when you realize you're exhausted not because you're weak, but because you've been trying to be everyone's lifeboat. You keep pulling people out of their sinking waters, paddling them to shore, breathing life into lungs that refuse to breathe for themselves. And somewhere in that process, you forget that you were never meant to save them. You were meant to shine. You were meant to be the lighthouse, not the lifeboat. A lifeboat dives into chaos. A lighthouse stands rooted. A lifeboat carries the weight of others. A lighthouse guides with presence. And this is where so many of us get confused. We think that to be responsible, to be loving, to be of service, we must jump into other people's pain and swim them to safety. But if you do that long enough, you drown. Not because you don't care, but because you've confused compassion with codependency. You've mistaken empathy for erosion. And what the world desperately needs now is not more people who lose themselves trying to help, but people who are so deeply anchored in their own truth that they become a beacon others can navigate by. Let's be honest, it feels good to help. It feels meaningful to be needed. There's a rush to being the one who knows what to say, how to hold space, how to fix. But beneath that, sometimes, there's another truth, a quieter one, that maybe, just maybe, we've built our identity around being the helper, because we never learned how to receive help ourselves. That we've become the strong one because we never felt safe being vulnerable. And so we carry everyone, hoping someone might one day carry us. But here's the radical shift. When you stop trying to rescue others, you finally create space to rescue yourself. Being the lighthouse means you radiate light, so steady, so unwavering, that those who are ready to rise can find their way by it. It means you recognize that each soul must swim their own ocean, face their own storms, learn their own lessons. You can love them deeply. You can offer wisdom, you can shine, but you cannot rob them of their becoming, and you cannot abandon yourself in the name of devotion. This is where boundaries become sacred, not walls, but energetic clarity. Boundaries that say, I love you and I trust you to grow through this. Boundaries that say, I will not betray myself to soothe your discomfort. Boundaries that protect your peace like holy ground, because it is. Because your peace is what makes you magnetic. Your peace is the frequency that heals. And when you're constantly in the chaos of saving others, you lose that frequency. You become reactive instead of radiant, drained instead of devoted. Ask yourself this: who are you when you're not fixing anyone? Who are you when you're not performing the role of the rescuer, the healer, the strong one? That version of you, the quiet, centered, unentangled you, is where your real power lives. That's the version the world needs, not the aligned one, the rooted one, the lighthouse. And here's something most people won't tell you. When you stop playing lifeboat, some people will leave. Some will say you've changed, that you've become distant, that you no longer care. They'll resist your shift because they were feeding off your light without giving anything in return. Let them go, not from anger, but from love. Love that honors your own capacity. Love that doesn't leak. Because every time you dim your light to keep someone comfortable, you betray your own soul, and your soul came here to shine. You don't need to carry everyone. You don't need to shrink so others feel big. You don't need to explain your boundaries to people who benefit from your lack of them. You just need to remember who you are: a transmitter, a frequency holder, a living example of what it means to be whole. If you really want to help others, become so fully yourself that they remember how to be themselves. Speak your truth even if your voice shakes. Protect your energy like it's divine currency, because it is. And let your life be the loudest teaching, not your advice, not your solutions, but your embodiment. Because the world doesn't need more lifeboats, it needs more lighthouses. Stop apologizing for your light. Why being too much is exactly what the world needs. You've probably heard it your whole life. You're too much, too emotional, too intense, too sensitive, too deep. And somewhere between childhood and now, you started to believe that your light, this bold, radiant, truth-filled energy, needed to be dimmed for others to feel comfortable. So you made yourself smaller. You edited your emotions. You tiptoed around your truth. You apologized for your intuition, your passion, your insight. But let me tell you something that may just unchain your soul. Your too much is exactly what the world needs right now. You were never meant to blend in. You were never meant to follow the script, stay quiet, or fit the mold. You were meant to disrupt, to awaken, to shake the foundations of a system built on numbness. Your depth was designed to drown illusions. Your fire was made to burn away what's false. Your presence is not an accident, it's a transmission. And if it makes people uncomfortable, good. Discomfort is where growth begins. The truth is, most people have built their lives around avoiding their own depths. So when you walk in with your heart open, your intuition sharp, your words piercing through layers of denial, they don't know what to do with you. And instead of honoring your power, they label it. They try to shrink it. But that's not your problem. That's their invitation. And whether they accept it or not is none of your business. Your only responsibility is to stay true to your light. Do you understand the impact you have when you stop apologizing for who you are? When you walk into a room without shrinking, when you speak from your soul without filtering, you give people permission to do the same. You become a mirror, not just of truth, but of possibility. You show them what it looks like to live unchained. And that is a rare and radical act in a world full of masks. But here's the thing. Owning your light doesn't mean you're always loud, always on, or always in the spotlight. Sometimes your light is quiet. It's the way you hold space. It's the way you listen. It's the way you feel what others are too afraid to say. Your light isn't about performance, it's about presence. It's about being so anchored in your truth that you don't need to prove it, you just live it. And that's enough. Let me ask you something deeply real. What part of yourself have you been hiding to make others more comfortable? What emotion, what truth, what gift have you kept in the shadows because you were afraid of being too much? And what would happen if you brought it into the light? Not for validation, not for approval, but because it's yours, because it's sacred, because it's who you are. The world doesn't need more polite silence. It doesn't need more watered-down versions of truth. It needs real ones, awake ones, lit up from the inside ones. It needs you uncensored, unfiltered, unapologetic. You don't need to explain your energy. You don't need to tone it down. You just need to trust it, to walk with it, to let it lead. So stop apologizing for your light. Stop editing your essence. Stop making yourself digestible for people who are never meant to taste your frequency. You are not too much. You are medicine. You are fire. You are exactly what this world has been waiting for. Let them adjust to your brightness, not the other way around.